First Corinthians chapter 13 verse 8 to 13. Love never fails, but whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For once we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. Perhaps one of the most read and the least understood scriptures are these verses. These verses show the Apostle Paul's spiritual growth in Christ as he came out of Pentecostalism into grace. His first view of the risen Christ was from the group that Ananias was part of, a Pentecostal group. While Paul participated with them for a while, his calling from Christ prompted him to move on in Christ. First Corinthians chapter 13 shows how the Spirit was leading him on to the fullness of Christ. He comments in these verses concerning the things he was learning at that time in his life. Paul learned that it was possible for believers to have only part of the understanding of what is theirs in Christ. As he says at this stage, we only know in part. He does not say that the Lord in time will add to the part until the part becomes perfect. Rather, he says that when the perfect is come, the part will be done away with. The implication is that prophecies, tongues, and human knowledge will vanish away. Why would this be? When so many Pentecostal Christians thrive on these works? The answer is simple in grace language. These are works generated by man, and at their best, man can only achieve a part of what God is doing. The part will remain until that which is perfect is come. The perfect is Christ operating out of the believer. The ministries are His, not ours. When the ministries mentioned in this chapter are man's ministries, they will always be lacking. The believer never becomes perfect. When Paul says he waits for the perfect to come, he is looking for the Christ life. Perfection is Christ alive in the believer. The whole intent of God is that Christ be the all in all in the human. Look at the scriptures in John chapter 17 verse 23, First Corinthians chapter 2 verse 6, Philippians chapter 3 verse 15, Colossians chapter 1 verse 28, Colossians chapter 4 verse 12, Second Timothy chapter 3 verse 16 to 17, and Hebrews chapter 13 verse 21. The facts are that believers are perfect to God only when He sees Christ in them. Paul rightly says that the believers are still children in their thinking as long as the ministries are theirs and as long as they think God's attention is always focused on them. Far from this, God's attention is always focused on His Son. The time always comes in God's plan for His children to mature, a time when believers see that they have been looking through a glass darkly. As scriptures in Acts chapter 28 verse 28, when the gospel goes to Gentiles, it is a gospel of grace where Christ is all and in all. The time is now for the believer to grow up in Christ. Notice Paul's use of the word now. Now we see through a glass darkly. Now I know in part. But in verse 10 he says, then that which is in part will be done away. And then in verse 12 he says, but then face to face. This means that the ongoing believer, like Paul, may go through many religious experiences that are just a part, but the time comes when we see Christ face to face and is total. No longer is life based on the parts. The ultimate goal of God is that Christ be the life and the ministry of every believer and that we remain crucified with Christ. To God be the glory. God bless you.